noon hour is here.
Check it out.
And you're locked on to Utah's highest rated, most listened to sports radio station.
It's my station. It's my station.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, folks. Let's do this.
Oh, come on.
No. Like, I have had a wide range of emotions. I was on the air last night with Ben and Alex and JJ when the news came down. And by the way, Ben did a fantastic job of, like, he knew immediately after, like, pick 9 that it was not going well. And sure enough, by the time 7-6 rolled around, he's like, yep, Jazz are at 5. Like, there was no drama. He knew it. And again, he was able to process it a lot quicker than I think we were. We knew something bad was happening because I kept looking at the order, and when teams were not picking in order, you're like, oh, boy.
I got to be honest, though, that pill is still as jagged as one of Lloyd's kidney stones to swallow. Like,
yeah, Alanis Morissette is not happy.
Oh, man, that is still a very jagged pill. Even though Ben's projecting it and you're seeing it, it's still like swallowing one of Lloyd's kidney stones.
Yeah, but when Mark Tatum flips the card and it says 5 and it says Utah Jazz, it still was just like, and we had when people.
Is it bad I wanted to punch him? Like,
oh yeah, because he's got that smug look on his face.
Get that smirk off your face.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on
that. You won't be smiling with a broken jaw, will you, bud?
Yeah, like you need to be spoon-fed applesauce after I'm done with you.
And I don't know why I'm giving an Irish accent. I just do when I'm talking about hitting people.
But it was, and I tweeted this out this morning. You've been doing sports radio for a long time in this market. I started in early 2003 doing sports radio here in Utah in some way, shape, or form. And I don't recall a visceral reaction by a fan base over one singular moment than what I saw last night. Like and DJ goes, what about July 4th? I don't think July 4th was as bad as what I saw last night.
Gordon Hayward.
That's the only thing that I can, that comes close. Now people will go 97, 98. I wasn't around for that. Okay. I got here in 03.
Yep.
So I wasn't here for the NBA Finals. So I'm just looking at.
Are you talking positive, negative? You're talking about any?
No, mostly negative.
Negative, okay.
But mostly something that brought the fan base together with a collective anger and just sheer force of just despair.
And disgust.
Yeah. And I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. I mean, I sent out a pretty simple tweet that we talked about yesterday, how Danny Ainge in Boston went from 5 to 2.
I saw the tweet. Didn't you send it out pre-lottery?
No, I sent it out after the lottery.
Oh, did you?
And all I said was like, all right, guess what? Luck didn't work out, so now you got to take matters in your own hands. And people went nuts.
That's the one you referenced, Boston?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was pre.
No, it was post.
Oh, okay.
And it was pretty benign. But, boy, people were angry.
People came at you a bit?
Came at me. Like, You're just a media shrill. I'm like, look, I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm not saying he's doing the exact same thing. I'm just saying that now you gotta earn your money a little bit because Lady Luck's not giving you anything, so you got to find a way to do it on your own.
Oh, man. Typical me. I left my wallet and my notes at home today, but I did this whole note breakdown.
I wish I was here earlier to let you in. That's kind of our thing.
I know. I typically forget my badge, my wallet, and my notes. I do have.
Oh, you did have your badge.
I got my badge, but I forgot my notes. Dang it! But what I did is I tracked every single team from the Western Conference and how many times they've been involved in the draft lottery, and then I did. It's really not scientific, and it really isn't even that important or informative because, different records will lead to different percentages. But I did find this interesting, Scotty. So the Spurs have been in the draft lottery 9 times since 1985. The Spurs have been there 9 times since 1985. And their average pick in those 9 visits was a 6.4, okay? The Nuggets have been there 14 times. Their average pick was a 7.7. The Mavericks have been in the lottery 17 times in 41 goes since going back to 1985. They've been there 17 times with an average pick of 7.8. The Utah Jazz have been in the lottery 11 times, which is tied for the second most, or the second least. The Lakers and the Spurs tied for the least. They're both at 9. And then you've got the Utah Jazz at number 3 with 11. So the Jazz have been in the lottery 11 times. As you mentioned yesterday a couple times, like, yeah, but the Jazz haven't been there a lot. You're right. They haven't been there a lot. They've been there 11 times. So thinking about the Spurs being there 9 times, average 6.4. The Jazz have been there 11 times, averaging 10.3. Averaging 10.3. Never getting above a 3. They've never been a 2 or a 1. And like I said, out of 29 other teams in the league, there's only 2, the Jazz and the Denver Nuggets, in the history, 1985, of draft lotteries and all of its evolution. So when this stuff happens, it's like, no, it's not just 14% chance. It's not. Like, if you want to get like really crazy statistics about it, you got to take into account 1985 on, all the opportunities that the Jazz have had compiled in from 1985, and you've got to actually work out percentages. It's going to tag on to top of that 14%. That's why I went into that draft lottery with a different hope and expectation. It's like, no, it's their time.
Yeah, sooner or later, it's got to work out.
Right, it's their time. And that's why I think that, and maybe Jazz fans were on that same page with me. But I'm going to tell you what took the wind out of me more than what happened with the Jazz.
Yeah.
It's who jumped them.
Yeah.
That's what took the legs right out from under me. It's like the Jazz falling to 5. It's like, okay.
There's a 1 in 2 chance of that happening.
Yeah, but if it went chalk above that, it's like, well, shoot, dang it. You know, there were 3 people with 14% chance, but that's not how it happened.
No.
The worst possible scenario, the Dallas Mavericks with 1.8% chance. The Dallas Mavericks that were in the play-in tournament.
Yes.
They finished as the 10 seed. They got bumped in the play-in, and all of that had to do with Anthony Davis, the trade, the injury, and everything that went on with them. A bunch of stupidity, and they're the ones that get the number 1 pick. And it's like, no, and you fall apart. And then you're like, well, yeah, but number 2. And then the Spurs that just got Wembanyama, they jump into number 2. And then you look at the percentage chance. It was like 0.043 of the 3 that finished in the top 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're like, okay, no. Percentages don't matter anymore. This is complete stupidity. It's broken. And that's why you get all of the conspiracy theorists.
Yeah. NBA is going to have to do something because last night, for a moment, now look, if the Jazz get good, everybody's going to be back. But the NBA lost a good chunk of fans last night in Salt Lake City. Like, everybody thinks it's rigged. Now, I got a phone call last night. I got a phone call last night from somebody who is not part of the Jazz organization, but was for a long, long time and was a high-level member of the front office. And he told me, he's like, look, I'm as angry as you are. I'm as angry as anybody is right now. He goes, I need you to know that I've been in that room with the lottery balls. I can't see how it's rigged. Like, I want it to be rigged. I want to say it's rigged. I've been in the room. I just can't see how they would rig it.
You know, this was the thing I dreaded the most about today's show. This was the thing I dreaded the most. Because as much as I want to believe it's rigged, I don't believe it's rigged.
I don't either.
But I want to.
I do too.
Because this is astronomical. The numbers, the percentage chance of this happening with Chris Paul getting traded and then New Orleans getting a pick and Anthony Davis getting traded and
New Orleans.
Yeah. And it's like everything goes down the list and you're like, wait a second. Luka Doncic gets traded in the Dallas Maverick and gets traded to the Los Angeles Lakers done in a midnight deal in the cover of night. And Dallas lands the number 1 and you're like, it's got to be rigged. But I can't sit on air and tell anybody realistically that I believe that it's rigged. I can't imagine that it is. Because you talk to top officials.
Yeah.
I talk to people. We see the media reports. And I know people want to go to Andy Larson and people want to go to anybody that was in that room or saw the balls or see the way it works. And they're like, oh, you think you know they got you tricked. Well, they might. I mean, there's a chance it would be as crazy as faking a moon landing.
Yeah.
Maybe, well, yeah, it'd probably be as crazy because you'd have that many people involved.
You'd have to have a lot of people involved to rig that.
And it only takes one person out of hundreds that are part of a fix to leak it to bring down an entire league. It would bring down the league.
Mm-hmm. Oh, in a second. I just don't know why they don't do it publicly. Like the thing that the behind, and I know they invite members of the front office and select members of the media, and I get all that. Why don't we just do it in front of everybody? Like, why don't the NHL, they televise it? Like, get, I don't know, whoever, like the lottery guy and the girl with the cocktail dress. And
has that been asked about Adam Silver?
I don't know.
Well, I would like to hear it asked.
Like it, and there was like, well, Ernst & Young was here. Who cares about Ernst & Young? I don't care about them. Right. I want to see it up close and in person.
Well, I was reading the whole story of 1985.
Oh, now that was rigged.
And the law firm that was involved in putting the envelopes into the rotator.
The frozen envelope.
And it turns out the guy that was handling the envelopes was one of the owners of the New York Knicks at the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, geez.
And even he said, oh, it's cold.
And it's so ridiculous.
Now, that one, 1,000% was rigged.
It certainly feels that way. And Patrick Ewing changed the direction of the Knicks for the next 10 years. But, Scotty, that what you just brought up, I was sitting in my bed 4:30 this morning. I just woke up and started thinking of numbers and the draft lottery and just the complete improbabilities that I just watched. And I could not come to some type of internal agreement that it's fixed, because the risk of fixing something like that and the people that know, the people that are involved, it would leak. And it would take one leak and that entire league would come down.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I'm one of the 30 owners and I find out that really anyone, that I've got factual evidence that anyone was rigged, as an owner, what do? You would come unglued. And you would want to know, did the Dallas Mavericks ownership group, did they know? Did they know it was rigged? Because here I am as a Utah Jazz ownership group. I'm doing everything right. Okay, so maybe tanking's not right, but everybody's been doing it. And I feel like with the CBA, it's the only way that I can build my product.
Yeah, yep.
And being in Utah, it's the only way I can build my product is through this draft. That's how you built it with the CBA. That's how you built it with these athletes and my contracts and the way I can structure it, my cap space. You did this. So I've got a tank to give myself the best chance to build through the draft. And you're telling me that it's rigged? It would melt the entire league.
Oh, yeah.
Down.
Well, and
am I wrong in that?
No, not at all. And it's funny.
It would bring the whole house of cards had come down.
So Darren Rovell sent out a tweet yesterday, and it was funny because you and I were kind of trying to talk about it in terms of value of programs, and we were referencing a study done on Victor saying that he would bring X amount of dollars to the organization. Yeah, he said it was anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion for Cooper Flagg, what he would mean to that organization.
And I was talking about the number one overall pick, what it brings.
Yeah. And he goes, we're talking about when you look at ticket sales, jersey sales, national TV opportunities, all of that, the value could even be close to $1 billion. So if it ever leaked out, if Adam Silver ever got hit or the league found out that, oh, we may have rigged that, guess what? The Jazz could be there with a law firm saying, we're suing you for $1 billion.
It's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
And so would Washington, and so would anybody else.
I don't care. And maybe today, Jazz fans and Jazz Nation, maybe today they don't need to hear any of that. And I know a lot of my tweeting leans into that because the more I look at the numbers, the more improbable it is what happened. But improbability always exists in crazy numbers. It always exists. Now, to this level, I don't know. Because 2025, 1.8% chance grabs the number one. 2024, 3% chance grabbed the number one. 2019, 6% chance grabbed the number one. In fact, I went and did the math on this. Out of 41 draft lotteries, 41 of them, 25 of those have been won by a team with 14.29% chance or less. More than half. have been won by teams with less than 15% chance. The numbers are improbable. So you sit there and you're like, something is wrong.
Yeah.
But then your good sense and your intelligence tells you that a professional logo risking it all to rig it, it just feels like it would bring it all down and it would be a worldwide scandal. If I was working in the NBA front offices and Adam Silver said, hey, we're having a special meeting with 20 of us, and we sit down and Adam Silver is looking across me and, okay, we're figuring out the 2026 fix, I'd be like, I need to excuse myself. I don't want to be a part of this. Because if this comes down and my name is a part of this, I will be a part of the Black Sox.
Yeah.
I will be remembered as the despicable, low-end, well-poo scum of the earth. And I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
Am I off?
No, you're not. And the thing is, like last night, I was talking to Ben and Alex and JJ. I go, tomorrow at noon, I'm going scorched earth. I'm going conspiracy theory. I'm just doing it. I don't care. I was mad. And it wasn't like I'm not necessarily a Jazz fan, but I want to talk about a relevant NBA team. Like, if there's one thing I found out last night, I thought that the passion for the Jazz had been waning a little bit. No, it's still there. It's still there. It's just been kind of laying low and just kind of watching and waiting. And when that broke last night, it's like somebody threw 10 sticks of dynamite on Hoover Dam, and that thing burst, and that water came flooding through because people were pissed.
Yeah,
and I get it. I totally get it. I just don't know how it happens. I just don't think it does. But in fact, I even think Adam Silver, like Mark Tatum, and that smuggy little punk smile of his, gets on the phone and goes to Adam Silver. He's like, hey, Adam's like, oh, okay, so who won? Dallas won, San Antonio 2. And he's like, no. Like, that was not a good situation for the NBA. It's a bad look. You have people...
Even as a non-Jazz fan.
Exactly. You've got a lot of people nationally that think that it's rigged now. Like this
1.8% chance, and the team that was the most prominent over the last 2 months of the NBA season.
This is not a Utah thing going on right now. This is national in terms of the level of people that are just like, nuh-uh, I can't buy this anymore.
It really is improbable. It's really, just, the numbers are absolutely maddening. So, okay, so to that point right there that you just brought up, that even Adam Silver's like, no. Like, everybody's like, no, just don't let it be the Mavericks. Like, there were so many people tweeting pre-draft that were like, watch what the NBA is going to do. They sent Luka to the Lakers for the big showpiece, and now they're going to reward him with the number 1 pick. There were thousands of those tweets.
Yes.
Pre-draft lottery. And all of a sudden, those all come flooding back hardcore because it happened. Like, the worst-case scenario. That's worse than the Spurs winning it.
Yeah.
It's worse than the Spurs getting the number 1 pick, in my opinion, because the Luka Doncic attachment. It's like, it feels like it's such an obvious fix. John Erickson tweets in and he says, it isn't rigged. It's just a poorly run and designed thing.
I agree with that.
I agree with that. So the thought I had was, where the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz have never hit on number 1 or number 2. And you've got the Mavericks that are sitting in that hopper, and you've got the Spurs that are sitting in that hopper. And they had the number 1 with Dirk Nowitzki and won a championship, and Spurs had a couple of number 1s and they won championships. I think that lottery needs to remove balls from teams that have multiple victories.
Yeah.
Remove balls and remove percentages. And then add percentages to those teams that haven't had a chance to get the $500 million lottery ball. That's only right. And I'm not saying that I've got the fix for it. I'm just saying it's only fair because the more I look at it, that there are 28 out of the 30 other teams, there are 28 that have gained more from the draft lottery than the Utah Jazz. 28 of them. Well, it's the Utah Jazz turn. So load their odds. Well, yeah, you want to keep them from tanking. I get it. But you still need to load their odds because the Jazz have to hit this once.
Yeah.
And this was the one they needed.
Yeah. We'll peel away from the NBA draft momentarily, talk a little golf with Bob Casper next, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This PGA Championship update is brought to you by Mountain Land Supply, Zions Bank, Black Desert Resort, Hoops Vision, and Siegfried and Jensen. Now, here's Real Golf Radio's Bob Casper.
I know it's been in May for a while, but some of us still making that adjustment to the PGA Championship coming up in May, and it'll be this week at Quail Hollow Golf and Country Club. Bob Casper with us. Bob, how you doing?
Hey, Bob.
I'm doing great. You know, BT and I headed out there tomorrow morning, and I'm playing a golf course right now. It's the only course that I have played with you two guys on.
Oh.
Up here at Cedar Hills in
Nice.
the Kalani Satake tournament. So
I feel like you're kind of name dropping and rubbing our nose in it a little bit.
I am. Absolutely. Absolutely. All the guys are here. Reno Mahe's the group in front of me. Kalani's behind me. Justin Enna's up here. Chad Lewis, Brian Santiago, all the guys.
Let me guess, you're in Kalani's foursome.
No, I am not. I am playing golf. Brian and I are playing with Rob Bruff from Zions Bank.
Oh, jeez. Of course you are. Tell Rob hi. We like Rob. He's a good dude.
I appreciate
Absolutely.
them. I appreciate them letting you take a few minutes here with us, Bob.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about this. Give me your top 4 golfers that are your favorites coming into the weekend.
You know, I just hope it's a perfect storm, Hans. I hope it's Scheffler, and I hope it's Rory, and it wouldn't be bad if Bryson was in the mix, or Xander, or Jordan Spieth. There's a lot of guys that JT. There's a lot of guys that I would love to see in the mix coming down the stretch on Sunday.
So tell me about Quail Hollow. It shows up on the rotation quite a bit, but what do you like out of this course?
Well, it's a PGA Tour event. The Truist, which was last week, they moved to Philadelphia, to the Philadelphia Cricket Club, because they were playing the PGA Championship this week at Quail Hollow. So the Truist will go back to Quail Hollow next year, but this is like the second time that it's played the PGA Championship. Last time Justin Thomas won there, but the golf course will play about 75 to 7,600 yards. Where you really need to score on the back nine are holes 13, 14, and 15. You've got a par 3 and a short par 4 and then a par 5. But then when you get to 16, 17, 18, that's called the Green Mile, and it averages about 1,500 yards for the 3 holes. So, that's where it starts to really, really get tough. But Justin Thomas today in his media interview said that this golf course is really nothing off the tee. You just go ahead and hit it as hard as you can with your driver. You don't have to worry about stuff. You may get it in a little bit in the rough and stuff like that, but that's not where this golf course excels as far as difficulty. Difficulty is it's a second shot course, and then of course if you're putting well, you're going to have a chance. So it's a really fun golf course. I caddied for my dad there back in 1978. I caddied for him there and also at Memorial the week after. It's just a lot of brings back a lot of memories. It's really cool.
So I typically love to root for our American golfers, but we got an opportunity here with a master start from Rory McIlroy that broke a long curse, and a guy from Hollywood, Northern Ireland, that could potentially run off some great success and put together that big four that we are always looking for. What's the likelihood that we see Rory return in Masters form and go out and grab this PGA Championship?
Well, you know, everything sets up really, really well for him as far as like completing a Grand Slam in 1 year. He got the career Grand Slam at Augusta, so now he has done what? He's sixth, I think, now that has done the career Grand Slam. Nobody's really done it in 1 year, unless you want to count the Tiger Slam with Tiger, he won the last 3 in the first one of the next year. But, it sets up well. This is a golf course he's won 4 times on. And then you got to think about the U.S. Open, which is kind of a driver's golf course also, and then the Open Championship going to Northern Ireland to the golf course where he plays at there at Royal Portrush, and he's won a lot of golf tournaments there as a junior and stuff like that. So he knows that one really well too. So the other guy that's played really, really well here is Justin Thomas. JT won the last PGA Championship here at Quail Hollow, and he's won one other Truist Championship there as well. Now, the one I would really think would be cool to see is Jordan Spieth, and that would give him his career Grand Slam if he wins the PGA this week. So it'd be pretty cool to have 7 guys have won the career Grand Slam and get 2 in 1 year.
Well, yeah, I got to imagine he watched Rory do it. Now he's like, well, crap, now I've got to do it because the pressure's on me now.
Yep, exactly. So he's one of the guys that I would love to see win. But Scotty would be a good one too. Get his 3rd major and 2nd of the 4. JT's already won the PGA Championship twice. He won it there at Charlotte, and then also won it in Oklahoma and at Southern Hills. So there's a lot that could really, really be fun this week.
Bob, we appreciate your time as always. Looking forward to chatting with you throughout the week. Enjoy your time out there.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bob Casper, Brian Taylor on their way to North Kakalaka to see that. But they got to play in Kalani's golf tournament first.
Wow.
So
you got to pull teeth,
Appreciate the sacrifice for Kalani. All right. When we come back, what does this mean for next season for the Utah Jazz? What direction do they go? What can they do? Well, we'll talk about it coming up next. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty Chin. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's my second time being in the back room watching the lottery unfold. It happens really quick. It actually happens in the reverse of how it's announced on TV, and so it was over pretty quickly. And this was always the most likely individual outcome that we expected and kind of prepared for, given that the flattened lottery are odds since 2019. So we were prepared that this is a very real possibility, and we're excited to add a good young player to our team. We've got, the work we've been doing for the last 2 years on this particular draft. We get to kind of put plans in motion now and have a bunch of guys get into our gym and create a competitive environment to really evaluate these guys. This week at the Combine is going to be really, really productive for our staff, especially our scouting staff, to see these guys up close. We have Coach Hardy here and Danny and myself along with our staff. So we have a bunch of interviews to do, get to see these guys and start talking to them in person and really start drilling down on the possibilities. In reality, this is another young player, an asset that we can add to our team. And this is one of the main reasons that we have decided to stay flexible and have a bunch of assets here to be able to move up, move down, and really put together pieces and find the right combination of players to take this organization forward. And the number 5 pick is certainly a part of that.
Oh, man, that is a jagged little pill that we all had to swallow yesterday.
You heard the Fiona Apple comment yesterday, bud?
Of course I did.
I apologize for that.
No, you don't.
I said, because Alex and JJ, their producer, he plays all kinds of different hits coming in.
Yeah, he's an eclectic son of a gun.
Yeah, and so I just said, oh, that's crazy, because all Scotty and I ever get is like Fiona Apple, and that's about it. And I meant it in jest.
No, you didn't. It's fine. Whatever.
Totally in jest.
I'll try to be better. Whatever.
So, Scotty, you teased.
Yeah, Fiona Apple. Outside of that one video, it's like,
she's only got like one song on
her
here.
music's
so, yeah.
horrible.
It really is.
It is. But Daydream is a good song.
Yeah.
But,
oh, You can't play the song and then when we talk about it, be like, all right, move on. Come on.
Okay, you had your fun. Now let's get to the nitty gritty.
You teased the future of the Jazz.
Yes. So I think last night went so poorly for the Utah Jazz. You cannot go tankathon in 2025-26. I don't think you can because now look, obviously you can, and nobody tells Danny Ainge what to do. But last night was a big hit for the Jazz from a PR standpoint because everybody bought in. And we talked about this yesterday. Everybody bought in. We all knew what was going on. We were well prepared for it all year long. Every loss, it's like, all right, one closer to Cooper, another one closer to Cooper. We lose 10 out of the last 11. All right, Cooper flag, let's go. It's all worth it. And then in the span of 10 minutes, not only do you lose out on Cooper flag, you lose out on Ace Bailey, you lose out on Dylan Harper, you probably lose out on Edgecombe. It's all gone. It's gone. And Jazz fans are like, wait a minute. We thought we were getting Cooper Flag. We thought we were getting Ace Bailey. We thought we were getting Dylan Harper. We thought we were getting all of this. And guess what? You got nothing. So you want to tell the fan base again in October, hey, this year's all about development. We took this guy at number 5. He's super young. He's only 18 years old. But he shows a lot of promise, and once he gets into our development and our strength and conditioning in 2 or 3 years, he's going to be great. Just wait. Jazz fans are done waiting, man. They're done. They can't do this anymore. They can't go down this path with you. Now, look, if the Jazz go down the path and nobody's around to watch it, then they'll do it. If they're fully committed to it, they'll do it. But boy, last night, everybody was all in until those lottery balls went against the Jazz. And now I think most Jazz fans are like, I'm out. I can't go through this again. I can't do this again. Now, whether that affects the Jazz and their mentality, I don't know. But last night could not have gone worse for this rebuild process for the Jazz.
Well, the reality is there's a possibility that when the season opens next year, there are 8 players that are going to be on the court that have been drafted in the last 3 years.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
because you got 2 this year.
Yeah, it's a real problem. We've got the 6 that we talked to a high level of exhaustion about. And yeah, I mean, you could throw in Walker Kessler, who was a first-round pick and was an addition, I think, was it 3 years ago or was it 4 years? 3 years ago, wasn't it? So, you throw in the addition of Walker Kessler on the court. And now we're talking about everybody from Sensabaugh to Kessler to Filipowski to everybody in between. And then you add 2 more. You're exhausting yourself in just trying to develop this young talent that you're taking. And I know that everybody's interested in the other Duke Blue Devil.
Yeah.
Con Newpel.
Yeah.
Is that
about right?
Is that proper?
Yeah.
Con Newpel.
All I know is the Duke can shoot it.
Duke can shoot it. 47.9% from the field, 40.6% from 3. Averaged 14.4 points, 4 rebounds, and 2.7 assists. Okay, so I'm intrigued. Con, it intrigues me, but I'm just not intrigued by another rookie.
No.
More development.
No more and
more tank.
Yeah, no, it's not the path that you can go down right now.
Okay.
Now you can. And Lloyd just texted me and said, "Well, if we're going down the path of conspiracy theories, maybe they said, hey, look, we got to do a solid for Nico in Dallas. We're going to give him Cooper Flag, but this DeBonsa kid, he's playing in your backyard in Provo. Just run it into the ground one more year. You're going to get that guy." And if Jazz fans were promised you will get the number 1 pick next year, they'll be like, all right, we're ready to go. But after you sold out and had the worst season in your franchise history, the worst, and you still got the 5th pick, Jazz fans are like, no, I don't believe you.
Yeah, not going to do it again.
I can't do this.
And it's not just this year. They have to take the collective, because I've gone over the historical numbers. Just take the Jazz collective. The historical numbers tell you no chance.
You're going to get screwed again.
Not a chance.
Yeah.
Done with it. Got to build it some other way because it's not happening. Hasn't happened in 41 drafts. It's not going, or in 41 lotteries. It's not going to happen. So move on. Okay, so what does moving on look like? And this, this is number 3 part of the Jazz getting screwed. Number 1 was Dallas getting the number 1 pick. Number 2 was a 14% chance wad up and thrown into the garbage can. Number 3 is you ended up with the 5th pick. And it's not a movable, flashy, shiny object that you can package with something incredible and get yourself a Giannis Antetokounmpo level player.
No, if you were at 3, maybe.
It stung you so bad. And I follow all of the top NBA minds, and I love some of their thoughts. And there's a lot of NBA minds that think that this is a 5-deep draft, and that Khan could be the pick of the draft, that he might be the steal. But I just am exhausted with rookies and development. And I'm watching Isaiah Collier this year, and you saw me. Every week I was tracking his assists, and I was trying to get excited because he was setting an assist rookie record for the Utah Jazz. And I'm like, but this is so cool. And it's like, but then I go to sleep and I'm like, that's not cool. Hans is stupid. And nobody cares. I had to tell myself that.
Yeah.
Like I'm tricking myself. Like Isaiah Collier, it's a rookie record for assists. And it's like, Hans, that's dumb. And it doesn't matter because the Jazz are losing and it's dumb. And you get excited because he's a little ball of hate, and he bounced his head off the court, and he got up. And a lot of NBA players don't do that. I'm like, oh, man, maybe Isaiah Collier's the answer. And then it's like, no, look, he's undersized. And this draft this league chews up and spits out most undersized athletes that don't have the last name Brunson.
And can't shoot.
And it's like, and Brunson can shoot.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, he's so good.
And Isaiah Collier can't.
Yeah. Exactly. So the thing that broke my heart was, number 1, Dallas, and you can include San Antonio slipping into 2. Number 2, Jazz, 14% chance, wadded up. But number 3, it was like, shoot, man. Oof. Shoot. What am I going to do with the number 5 pick?
I know.
What am I going to do? I can't package 5 and 21 and put it in a nice tidy thing and say, hey, 29, you get this, and 32, you get the Suns pick, or 31, whatever the Suns number 1 is it 31?
Yeah, 2031.
2031.
Yeah.
Here's the Suns pick, and we'll be taking X. And we're going to pair him up with Lauri Markkanen. We're going to go all in Walker Kessler. We're going to push Isaiah Collier. If Collier isn't up to the call, then we'll figure out what we're going to do in our backcourt, and we're going to package this front court. We're making it. We're going to do something. And even then, I'm just like, I want to throw up in my mouth because it's a 7 spot, 8 spot. You're a play-in, and probably bumped out of the play-in. And it's like, geez, man, this freaking draft lottery, it just cuts your guts out of you.
Yeah, because if you're at 3, you could get in the Giannis sweepstakes.
I think you could.
4, 5, not a chance.
No.
Not a chance. With the assets you have and the roster, look, Lauri Markkanen, and that's the other thing about Markkanen, he doesn't fit in with this team. If I'm Markkanen, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm 28, 29. I got to babysit 2 more youngsters? I can't do this. I honestly, after last night, I will be shocked. If Markkanen's on that roster.
Okay, I'll be shocked. One of 2 things. I will be shocked if Lauri Markkanen is on that roster if the 2 rookies are taken. I'll be shocked if draft day comes and goes and the Jazz have held on to 2 more 2025 picks.
Yeah.
I'll be shocked.
Yeah.
Because remember, I'm going to go back to 2023. And I said, we were doing draft night coverage. And I was like, yeah, they got the 3 picks. They definitely aren't going to keep all 3.
Said the same thing.
2024. Yeah, they got the 3 picks. They're not going to keep all 3.
Rinse and repeat.
Okay, here we go. 2025. No, they're not going to keep the 2. The 2 picks. Wait for it. Wait for it. Okay, so that would be my guarantee. If they keep those 2 picks, you got to do something with Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah.
If you're going to keep Lauri Markkanen and you're going to build on Lauri, now is whatever you can do. You've got 8 picks over the last 3 years. Package them all together.
Yeah. And give them next 3 unprotected first.
Do something massive.
Yeah. I don't care. Look, it's like we talk about with Ethan. All right, I'm going to make the mother of all transitions here. Okay? You can't take it with you.
Yeah.
Right? You can have millions and millions and millions of dollars in the bank, and then you die, and guess what? Your kids are going to fight over it. And what did you do? You did nothing. You never went on the trip. You never did all the cool stuff. Right now, the Jazz have this awesome portfolio. You got to do something with it.
Yeah.
You got to do something. You got to take it for a test drive. You got to do something.
It's time.
Yeah.
Because Tankathon 2026, tank for AJ, do it for DeBonsa, whatever you're going to call it. It's not in the cards. It's just not.
Yeah.
In 1985, I've gone through the numbers. In 11 draft lotteries, the Jazz have been screwed every time. Every single time.
And you'll get screwed again next year.
And you will get screwed again next year.
Yeah.
So it's done.
Shame on me, or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Yeah.
Yeah, shame on me, man.
This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for making us part of your day. We'll talk a little hockey with Sean Gentille, NHL writer, part of the Puck Soup podcast. And we'll get his thoughts on what's going on in the NHL playoffs. And then we'll get back to the draft. Lottery, the misery that is the NBA draft lottery.
Yeah, it was a tough day. I'll tell you, in the world of sports, though, it's been incredible.
Oh.
I feel for Boston. Worst possible scenario, Jason Tatum going down. Have they announced that it's a ruptured Achilles yet?
I was just about to ask you that during the break, if we've seen an official. I'm just pulling up.
I don't know if they've made it official, but that's...
MRI going today. They've not announced anything as of yet.
It sure is what it looked like to me, was an Achilles rupture.
Like ACL, you're like, oh, man, that sucks. But, boy, you hear Achilles, and it's just like, you're never the same.
Yeah, those are still tough to come back from, but we do have some examples of guys that have come back and still done amazing things. Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. Even though Klay's game was much different after it, Kevin Durant got back pretty darn close to Kevin Durant.
Yeah. That one was a shocker.
That one was a shocker, and he got back pretty quick from it. But could you imagine the timing of seeing Jason Tatum hit the court in this series against New York, and you just slap your forehead and think, oh. I'd still take that over slipping from number 1 down to number 5.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, joining us now, Sean Gentille, talking a little NHL playoffs. The Oilers get the big win over the Golden Knights. Edmonton now up in that series 3-1. The Hurricanes also up 3-1 as well. Sean, you surprised by either one of those two?
You know, I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I think a lot of different stuff was on the table in both those series. Carolina, you know, just the degree to which they've dominated the Washington Capitals in that one is probably a bit of a shock. Washington was the best team in the league during the regular season. They obviously had some flaws. Not a perfect hockey team. I'm not surprised to see that they're having trouble there. But the fact that they really have had their doors blown off the last couple nights is at least something of a surprise.
So, Sean, Scotty and I are fairly new to hockey. I mean, we've been invested over the last couple of postseasons now, but I'm watching things in these postseasons that I didn't really see the year before, but I might be watching just a little bit more closely. But like, for instance, last night, Edmonton against the Las Vegas Knights looked like one of the Oilers fired a puck right into one of the Golden Knights' ankles, and he went down. You know, there's been so many ugly hits and so many big brawls and so many big fights. Is it always this volatile, or is there something going on between Canada and American teams that we haven't seen in the past?
No, this is pretty much par for the course, honestly. If anything, this has been it's been relatively tame. Like we haven't seen like a crazy amount of dirty hits. We haven't seen we've seen a suspension or two, but none of that many. I think this is just kind of how it goes. The physicality of the game and of the sport gets dialed up at this time of year. So yeah, it's fun to see. It's entertaining at least. But it really isn't any kind of surprise. This is just kind of how things go.
So this business between Toronto and Florida with Max Domi and what he did at the end of that game and the way they're going at Florida, the way Sam Bennett has gone at them, has gone back at Toronto, or Reinert, or a couple of these guys that are so nasty. Like this, This is just typical, huh?
Yeah, Sam Bennett's done this exact same thing 3 years in a row against three separate opponents. I don't think it's anything. It's nothing particular about the Maple Leafs. That's just he's just a kind of a dirty player, kind of a physical player, a guy who's always on the edge, and a guy who is made a rep for himself and made a lot of money over the years doing this exact kind of stuff during the postseason. I mean, it really is. You can set your watch by it. Whoever Florida ends up playing in the third round, or in the second round rather, is probably going to get some kind of greeting from Sam Bennett. That's just how he rolls. Certain players are just kind of built that way, and I think he's kind of in that category.
So the Panthers get that victory, tie that series up at 2 games apiece, and there for a minute we're thinking, oh, maybe Florida's on the ropes. Do you feel like they'll come back and still win this series, or how do you think this one plays out?
I think you still got to pick Florida to win this one for sure. We've, obviously they win the Cup last year. They went to the Cup final the year before. That's a battle-tested team that's come back from a whole lot of different scenarios. So, yeah, it's tough to pick against them really under any circumstance. Toronto, on the other hand, kind of famously soft. They haven't had a lot of playoff success. It's always something with them. They've blown leads in series. They've done all sorts of stuff in that realm. So I think the fact that it's those particular teams that we're talking about, I think that makes it pretty easy to pick Florida, because they know what they're doing and the Maple Leafs don't.
Well, this has been the best series by far for me, Toronto and Florida. It's just been incredible. And now it heads back to Toronto, and things were really nasty in Florida. But I feel like the one thing that they really have in Florida that separates them is Bobrovsky, who went 23-0, 100% save percentage. When you don't let a team score, I mean, it's hard for
odds are pretty good.
Yeah, it's hard for that team to win. And I think, what is this, his 5th or his 6th career postseason shutout? He's got multiple already in this postseason. What is it about Bobrovsky in the postseason that makes him so incredible?
With him, especially over the last few years, I think what he's been great at is shaking off bad games. He's not a world beater night in, night out. You'll catch him on off nights where you'll be able to slip a few past him, but it doesn't turn into a protracted thing, right? Like you're probably not going to get him on 2 nights in a row or 3 nights in a row. He's a pretty mentally tough guy who's got a knack for not letting bad games turn into bad series, and I think that's definitely part of what has made Florida, such a successful playoff team over the last few years.
Sean Gentille, kind enough to join us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hans and I are always knee deep in the NBA, and everybody always talks about the Oklahoma City model. Everybody tries to build a team like Oklahoma City, and sometimes it just works out that it goes your way, and sometimes you just can't replicate that. Do people look at Florida and say, we want to build a team like the Florida model, and that's what we want to build like? But is it just really hard to put together what they've put together with that level of physicality with those kind of characters?
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think there is probably some similarities between them and Oklahoma City, because there's for Florida to get where they are, there's been a whole bunch of things that have had to go their way. Like they had to have some high draft picks when they were rebuilding a few years ago, and it all paid off. Right, their best player is Alexander Barkov, and he was a top 3 pick. He's like a franchise center. He's great at everything. Right, like the fact that they hit on him 10 years ago or whenever it was. Did a bunch of the hard stuff for them. When you have a guy like that as a building block, a lot of other stuff kind of falls into place. So he's kind of the foundational piece there. But they've also got a general manager who's pretty fearless and pretty open to shaking things up when he has to. He goes out and trades for Matthew Tkachuk a couple years ago. Was an all-star caliber player, a name brand, big name player. That was a blockbuster deal that brought him back to Florida. And they sent some serious pieces out whenever they added him. So that's part of it too. And a big part of it for Florida also with hockey players is a lot of them just want to play in South Florida. You have a leg up whenever you're trying to sell guys on living in that weather, being able to golf year round, not paying state income tax. Like all that stuff is a major factor that's kind of in play for Florida, and they take advantage of all of it. And they've around the margins too. They've just built out a really, really strong team that doesn't have any obvious weaknesses. So that's what makes them the favorite.
All right, Sean, I know you've been watching hockey a long time, covered a lot of postseasons, and in your time watching and covering hockey, where does the Mikko Rantanen run sit for you? What he's currently doing with the Dallas Stars is remarkable. Numbers that we haven't seen since Wayne Gretzky. So where does the Mikko Rantanen run sit for you?
I think if Rantanen were just doing this in a vacuum, it would be incredible. Like you said, he's breaking Wayne Gretzky records and Mario Lemieux records. He's hat tricks in single periods and consecutive games. Like that's incredible regardless of the context. Whenever you throw in the fact that he started this season on the Colorado Avalanche, gets traded to Carolina because of contract negotiation stuff, and then Carolina in turn also, can't hash out an extension with him. So they send him to Dallas in a matter of a few weeks. Like that makes all the more incredible. The guy got traded twice in a span of a month or 6 weeks or whatever it is. And then one of the teams that he's, the team that Dallas faces in the first round is, of course, the Colorado Avalanche. That's where he started the year. It's a team full of his friends. They won a Stanley Cup together a couple years ago. He goes supernova against them and is producing points and scoring goals in a way that we pretty literally haven't ever seen. So yeah, the fact, the combination of just the on ice performance and then the overall context in which it all comes is pretty incredible.
You a fan of the Mammoth?
I'm like right down the middle on it. I think it's good enough. I think the logo is good enough. I do like those colors a lot. I'm not sure. I don't know if I loved any of the alternatives either. So I think they ultimately probably made the right choice. Like I look at the end result and just say, yeah, that's fine. That's good enough.
We've had quite the pendulum flip here in Utah where all of a sudden, you got a hockey team that jumps up to number 4 in the draft and a team that we were hoping would pick number 1 in the NBA draft slips back to number 5. But let's talk about this NHL draft. At number 4, what's the talent level look like? Is this a deep draft? Is there somebody that you can see at 4 that could come in and make a difference?
Yeah, I think 4 is actually a pretty good spot to be in. There's no standout, world beater franchise player at the top of the draft. I think the consensus is that there's 4 pretty good ones. So odds are, the best player in the draft is a defenseman. He'll probably be off the board by the time things get down to the Mammoth. But there's 3 really good forwards on the board that kind of makes sense. Guys like James Hagan and Michael Misa are players whose names you're going to hear a lot of. And what you're looking at really is just talented scoring forwards. I think that's probably what it's going to be, and there's probably 3 of them at the top of the draft. So, I think if everything goes right, the choice will be made for the Mammoth. Right? They're going to be able to say, all right, we love these 4 players. Here's the the first 3 are gone. So mission accomplished. Choice made. They don't have to worry about making the wrong choice. So yeah, I actually really like them being in the 4 slot for this draft.
So, I want to give you a couple names, and I want you to tell me for the 2025-26 season. I want you to tell me how far this team can go, and keep the 4 pick in mind, and maybe what the Mammoth can do, kind of exchanging and moving and maybe grabbing some other talent. But Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, Dylan Gunther, Mikhail Sergachev. I'll throw in Hayton Kesselring. I'll throw in their goalie, Vejmelka. There's a couple of others in there. I know Olli Malta. I know that he extended a contract. And then you throw in this 4 pick and maybe a piece or 2 that the Mammoth can move. How confident are you that this is a postseason team next year?
I like them. I like them a lot. I think they made some major strides down the stretch last season. I think Dylan Gunther is a star. I think Clayton Keller is an unestablished, high end piece. I think Mikhail Sergachev last season was really big for him. Obviously getting traded from Tampa Bay in the offseason. He ends up in Utah, shows himself to be a pretty legit number 1 defenseman. I think that's huge. Ultimately, I think where stuff hinges for the Mammoth is what they get from Logan Cooley. There's a lot of wingers in Utah. That's great. You love to have guys like Gunther and Keller. That's awesome. But where they're going to need to make some strides is down the middle, and I think a lot of that starts with Cooley. If Cooley, he's in year 3 now. If he shows himself to be a legitimate, we'll say top 25 or 30 center in the league, I think that solves a lot of problem for him. So yeah, for them. So yeah, I think if he can level up, and there's certainly a ton of indications that he can. He's a really talented, really young guy. I think Utah's absolutely going to be in the thick of the wild card discussion there.
Not sure, what the future holds for Connor Ingram, but you look at Vejmelka. Did you see enough from him near the tail end of that season to lead you to believe he can be a primary goalie for a team?
He had some good stretches with Arizona in the past, but he's inconsistent. That's just kind of the way it goes. I think there's a lot of goalies that are in similar spots as him. That's the difference between being a true starter and a guy who you would like to have some other starting option, in the mix. For me, that's what Vejmelka is. He's a guy who can start some games, and he can certainly perform, over a certain amount of time. But I would absolutely want to have some other legitimate starting caliber option in the mix. I wouldn't want to rely just on him.
All right, the last thing for me, will it be a Canada team for the first time since 1993? Or will the United States of America hoist the cup? I'd love to make it.
I gotta go with the American teams, man. We gotta say it's gonna be Carolina or Florida, right? I can't bring myself to pick Toronto or Edmonton at this point. So yeah, let's fingers crossed. Let's keep it. Keep the cup in.
Winnipeg was dead to rights, man. Like they were
right?
done.
They look cooked. Yeah, we'll see. It's amazing how things work whenever your goalie figures it out. Connor Hellebuck is a fantastic goalie, but he had a rough couple weeks there in the first round. So yeah, if he's got his head screwed on right, I think they're gonna have a chance too.
Sean, we appreciate it, man. Good conversation. Thanks for your time, and hopefully we can catch up again here soon.
Yeah, guys, absolutely, anytime.
You got it. Sean Gentille right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, breaking down the NHL playoffs, what the Mammoth will look like coming up next year, all kinds of good stuff. Remember, get to wherever you get your podcasts, search Hans and Scotty, and you'll get the latest podcast sent right to you. Whether it's full shows, individual interviews, whatever you like, it's right there for you. Just search Hans and Scotty on that podcasting platform of choice. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to saddle up and talk about the winners and the losers. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now, here's the good.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hope you're all having a tremendous day. Look, I know, we're all a little upset. We're all in a bad mood. We're going to get through this. And you know what? It's a good way. You play a little golf. Make sure to join us coming up live on Thursday. We'll be at the Dyslexia Center of Utah Golf Tournament at Cedar Hills. Bob Casper's there right now playing in Kalani with a personal invite from Kalani to play in his tournament.
It's a great course, and I've just been in discussion with the Dyslexia Center just minutes ago, actually, in the last break, because I was just checking to see what foursomes are available, but they have they've closed it up, so foursomes are done.
But, sold her out, huh?
Yeah, but we want you to come out and be a part of it. This is an incredible event that we put on with the Hans and Scotty Show. Excited to be a part of it. The Dyslexia Center of Utah needs your help. They need funding from people like you in order to get those scholarships out to kids that deal with dyslexia that don't know how to get better. They can't get the treatment because they can't afford the treatment. But this tournament, 100% of this tournament goes to fund those scholarships for those kids that need it.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. It's a great event for sure. The good. Got a text this morning from our good friend Steph Avis. Here's our number. Now, we told you this wasn't going to be overall a huge number because we were only asking for $2. But Zone listeners came together in our 2-for-1, and we have a grand total of $1,184 that was raised in, for the most part, $2 increments.
Tell me that number again.
$1,184.
Great job, people.
And look, this was sometimes we do, the thing with the road home where, there's a chance to win prizes or, we're giving this away or giving this away. And we got all these matches and all this stuff. No, this was just all we were asking. You got nothing in return, especially after last night. You really didn't get anything in return. All we were asking for was just a $2 donation from as many listeners as we could. And I went down the list, and I would say about 85 to 90% of all the donations were just that, $2 donations.
So probably around 400.
Yeah.
400 $2 donations.
We got the big one from RGS, and then a few $20 in there and things like that. And we appreciate that. We really appreciate it. But just know, for all of you out there that just donated $2, all of that. We love you. We love you. We appreciate it. We're going to do a big little check presentation thing coming up a little bit later on. But again,
clap them up.
I love it. It isn't like in the grand scheme of things, is that a huge number? No, but it's just a bunch of people donating $2.
Yeah.
Expecting nothing in return than some good karma. And they didn't get that.
No.
But that's all right.
But
you yourself got good karma.
Yeah. Clap them up. Good job, people. Appreciate the participation, and it really was a fun event.
It really was, and it was a fun thing to put together. Big thanks to everybody who helped it, Steph and Nate and everybody else putting it together, Lloyd making it happen as well. That was just something that hit me in an insomnia moment. I thought maybe we could have some fun with this, and it turned out really well. So, again, thanks to everyone for donating those $2. We wanted our $2, and we got our $2. All right, Lloyd.
Now the bad.
So this is a breaking story. Scotty coming out of the NHL. And big thanks to DJ for sending this over to me. We've actually been going back and forth about this because the Florida Panthers minority owner, Doug Sifu.
Yeah.
Did you hear about what happened after Game 4, Florida-Toronto, with this Doug Sifu?
I heard something. I didn't know the details of it, yeah.
Social media bonanza. And I didn't believe it, but I was going back and forth with a couple of different listeners, and they were like, no, have you seen the tweets? He's deleted them. Well, it's official. The NHL has suspended Doug Sifu from any involvement with the team or the league after the series of offensive social media posts that all went down on Sunday night. And I apologize, I'm reading this for the first time because this story is just being released. Sifu will have an in-person meeting with NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman at a later date, but he is done until that conversation. The offending messages were from a back and forth with a fan from Toronto, the Panthers' current playoff opponent, that veered into statements about the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians, as well as a reference to Canada becoming America's 51st state. It really devolved into a political, nasty back and forth. Sifu is the vice chairman and alternate governor of Sunrise Sports and Entertainment, and he is the CEO of Virtue Financial and Financial Theology, which is a service company co-founded by Vincent Viola, who's the Florida owner. When asked for comment, the Panthers pointed to a statement Sifu provided to Florida Hockey. All it says is, 2 days ago, I posted a regrettable and inflammatory comment on social media. My behavior does not reflect the standards of the Florida Panthers organization and the Viola family. I sincerely apologize to all those affected by the comments. Once again, man, Twitter polls people into complete stupidity. You're commenting on the Palestinian-Israel conflict. You're commenting on things that are, when you're talking about the world of NHL right now, it's like United States and Canada, the back and forth that is kind of leaked into the political realm. Why? As an owner of the Panthers, why?
And look, it's not just 20-year-olds that do dumb things on social media. They can be wildly successful businessmen that can do really dumb things. And, like a couple of years ago, a group, I gave this like social media presentation to a group of kids, and I said, look, I'm in the radio business. Would you say this stuff to me if Hans and I were interviewing you on the air? And they're like, no. Okay, so why would you tweet it out when actually with retweets and followers these days, you will have that same reach just as fast? So why in the world, this guy would never hop on and talk to a newspaper guy or radio guy or TV guy and say this, but why do you think that, I'm just going to put it out on social media, but nobody's going to see it? It's going to spread like wildfire. And I just can't figure out why people are so dumb when it comes to ruining any kind of goodwill they have with the community just like that.
Are you interested in the tweets or do you want to move on?
No, I'm interested in the tweets.
Okay. So this started by a Twitter guy named Dr. Grizzo. I can't believe a man of this stature let Dr. Grizzo
get to him.
Dr. Grizzo is a Toronto fan, tweeted, "Hey, what's worse, using headshots to win a series or using starvation as a weapon to win a war?" Tweeted that at Sifu. Sifu responded with, "Actually, being a whiny, dope anti-Semite is clearly worse, loser." This thing starts to devolve even further to where Sifu responds with, "Eat beep, 51st state anti-Semite loser. Israel now and forever, until ever. Last Hamas rat is eliminated."
Oh, jeez.
Now, look, that's a realm that I am not familiar with, and I would never step into it because I don't know it. So I stay away from it. For this guy to get involved in something like this, it's like, I can't even believe it. I just can't believe that an owner, a CEO of a major organization would do this. Like you said, would you do this with a reporter?
No.
Not
Never
a
in a million
chance.
years. No.
But here he is blowing it up. And by the way, it did get even worse. But I'm not going to read some of these other ones.
Yeah, that's probably for the best.
But he went at him.
Unbelievable.
But the suspension is not, it is not determined. It just says he's suspended from all team or league involvement.
Yeah, and it might be for a minute. And frankly, it should be for a minute.
I'm wondering if that is going to, at some point, lead to some type of stripping of duty. I don't.
Good. Hey, look, the NBA certainly has gone down that path. Yeah, And that's a real slippery slope too, by the way. Like
it's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't like the fact. Obviously, what Don Sterling said when he was the owner of the Clippers was disgusting and horrible, and just atrocious.
Mm-hmm.
But do we really want to live in a world?
It was racist comments.
Where where essentially for saying something stupid and not breaking any laws, but saying things that are really stupid and horrible can force you to sell your team.
Strip you of possessions.
Yeah. And I get it, man. Horrible, disgusting things are a bad place, but
privately recorded.
But man, I just don't like when we get to a world where you're forced to sell because you said something stupid.
That's a really scary.
It's a scary world.
It is. It is. And when that happened, it was like, geez, are you opening up?
Yeah.
Because people could get set up. Owners could get set up. I mean, you're talking about, forcing the sell.
Yeah.
They went to Steve Ballmer, and Ballmer's done he's done good things.
Oh, he's done great things, yeah.
And I think he's improved the NBA with some of his progressiveness, just with his buildings and rosters and payouts. And,
I've not been to that arena, but I hear it's just incredible.
Yeah, I've heard it's the best in the NBA.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about forced sales, it freaks me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you could see somebody set somebody up. And I still don't know with that Stiviano thing and the whole recording. And he was a puke, obviously. He's an absolute puke. But he thinks he's in a private conversation with somebody. And he gets the team pulled out from under him.
Yeah. Granted, he sold it for a massive profit.
Now, based off of his comments, it's like you and I sit here in private discussion. We're like, good, should. But yeah, you're right, man. It's a crazy slope. But we'll see what ends up happening with this part owner of the Florida Panthers who can no longer be a part of this. And this is one of the best series that you've got going. Yeah. And Florida could potentially repeat.
And you're not allowed to be a part of it. I guarantee you they will not resolve this with him until Florida's done with the playoffs. They're going to make him sit out the entire playoff run. So whether it's in 2 games or whether it's in 8 games, whenever they're done, that's when they'll address this. All right, Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up next, another edition of Whole World News. Straight ahead right here on The Zone.
It's time to span the globe for the hard-hitting news you care about. Well, not really. But hey, at least we found it interesting. This is Whole World News on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
We've got the whole world in our hands.
You got the whole world in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands. We got the whole world in our hands.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, so you told me that when you were young, you saw, what was it, E.T. that freaked you out?
Yeah.
Was there any other things that gave you like an irrational fear growing up?
Yeah, UFOs.
Really?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, horrible
So
fear.
you didn't like the movie Fire in the Sky?
Oh, no. That movie was
didn't
awful.
see it.
Yeah, no,
as
don't
a young
see
kid,
that.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, Mr. Topic, he got roughed up pretty good by the aliens.
Yeah, he did.
What's that guy's name?
I think D.B. Sweeney.
D.B. Sweeney, yeah.
I think that the UFO and the fear of E.T. was probably the most horrifying thing I dealt with as a kid.
Yeah.
But like I told you, we used to sleep the summers. We didn't have AC in our West First home, so we'd sleep the summers on a back porch that was connected to the house, and it was all screened. And so you just looked out into space while you just laid there, and which would be cool for a lot of people, but for a kid that was driven by fear that he was going to get abducted and probed, I just sat there like, well, I just didn't want to see that white little, the images of E.T. when he's like dying and fleshy white.
Was it like,
Yeah.
was it
When
the
he-
opening scene where you see the house in the dark and
Or when he like had the red,
Some of that.
the red on his end of his finger.
Yeah, some of that. What is the part where the kid he rolls a ball into like a
Yeah.
like a little shed, and then the ball rolls back.
Yeah.
It's like, geez, all of it.
You
the
and I
stuffed
had
animals.
completely different experiences.
I know,
with
that's the
E.T.
thing. Like E.T., everybody wanted to like riding a bike with E.T. in the front basket.
I
but-
went and got Reese's Pieces. Reese's Pieces are actually my favorite candy because of E.T.
No way.
E.T. loved them. Yes, absolutely.
No, dude.
You know what? The one that got me, and this was a horror movie, but like I watched Friday the 13th. I watched a lot of horror movies. But man, for some reason, Freddy Krueger like scared the bejeebers out of me. Like that dude got into my head big time, and I was always terrified. I had to have bad dreams all the time about that. Well, the reason I bring this up is a lot of times as kids, we have irrational fears. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to take you to, let's see, Virginia. And there's a young girl, Lainey Litton. She's 3 years old. Well, her mom, Cassie, and the family, they took all the family to Washington, D.C. For Thanksgiving. And they did all the trips around to see all the sites. And they went to Ford's Theater. And she explained what happened to Abraham Lincoln in Ford's Theater. And essentially said that someone named John Wilkes Booth had hurt the then president, Abraham Lincoln. So Cassie then tells people, she goes, she really held on to that. And we just didn't know why she continued to hold on to that. She said, there's a statue downstairs in the museum part of the theater. She said, is that him over there? She said, no, that happened a long time ago. That's just a statue. She was already on edge. So when we went to the presentation, they were talking about Abraham Lincoln and how it all went down. She would not stop talking about John Wilkes Booth. She said that that man shot the president. So we're on church one day, one Sunday, and the preacher was talking about how Jesus loves us. She looked at me and said, Mommy, I love Jesus. And she said, that's awesome. I'm glad you do. She said, Jesus loves us. And she said, that's right. She loves all of us. She goes, he doesn't love John Wilkes Booth. Now she has to go in and she thinks John Wilkes Booth is under the bed. She thinks John Wilkes Booth is in the closet. She has this weird, irrational fear of John Wilkes Booth coming out of nowhere and shooting her.
That's a good one. That's a pretty unique fear. I guess we all do have those really. I don't know what it was about E.T. and his fleshy, kind of wet, fleshy skin that he had. You know. And I don't know what it was about Gremlins.
Gremlins I get because they were, half of them were bad.
Yeah.
Or all of them except for Mogwai.
Well, after they eat after midnight was when they would go bad.
Or get wet. Those are the two irrational fears. The getting wet, that was when they'd separate. No, you can't get water on them, and they can't eat after midnight, right?
Yeah, if you put water on them, they would separate as Mogwai. But remember, that's how he got multiple Mogwai. He put water on them and popped. But then he fed them.
Oh, and then they
turned into the.
Oh, okay. So they were cuddly and normal.
Yeah.
Until you fed them after midnight.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Which the Asian man that sold the Mogwai.
He told him.
He did. He was
pretty sure it was that guy. His name was Mogwai.
He was very specific about.
No, the cute one was
Gizmo.
Oh,
yeah. So Mogwai was that guy.
No. Mogwai is the name of the Gizmo. That's the name.
That's the breed.
Yeah, it's the breed.
Oh, okay.
It's the Mogwai. Yeah. I had to research it a little bit to come to understanding that it was fake.
I mean, I always felt bad more for Phoebe Cates' dad getting stuck dead in the chimney for
speaking of product
3
placement,
or 4 months.
I always wanted the Barbie Corvette from that movie.
that stripe hit that jump on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that Barbie Corvette drove him right into that fountain.
Yep.
And to his death.
And when
he popped out and that flesh was hanging off his face, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Gremlins and E.T. destroyed a lot of kids' childhoods.
Gremlins, yeah. E.T.?
Way more scary than John Wilkes Booth.
Well, that's true. She said, she cries in the middle of the night saying, I think John Wilkes Booth is coming to take my stuffed animals away.
Hey, Ethan, did you have any irrational fears as a kid?
As a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never faced the wall. Or no, I only faced the wall when I was sleeping. I would only face the wall because I was afraid something would come up in that little crack between your bed and the wall.
Oh, wow.
I'd leave my back to the rest of the room, but I slept watching that little crack between the wall and the bed. That was my thing for years.
Kidding.
For years.
You thought something was going to come up between there and get you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I was facing it, that I could defend myself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Clowns,
for years.
Clowns and stuffed animals, they have to face the wall.
After Poltergeist.
Does every kid have that? Like, does every kid go through that? Like this?
I think so.
Crazy fear. Like it consumed me for probably 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Number one.
Miss any part of the show? Every moment of every show is available in podcast form by searching Hanson Scotty on your favorite podcasting platform or online at KSLSports.com. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The fifth pick in the NBA draft will be made by the Utah Jazz. The second pick will be made by the San Antonio Spurs, and that means that the number one pick in the 2025 NBA draft goes to the Dallas Mavericks.
So tired of looking at Mark Tatum's smug face.
Yeah. I didn't like that at all.
I'm screwing you guys over, and you're going to deal with it. Rough day here in Utah. Andy Bailey, kind enough to join us, NBA writer for Bleacher Report. Andy, not a good day here in the 801, man.
I imagine it's a terrible one for Jazz fans. I as soon as they were announced last night, obviously your mind goes to them when you hear that name, but I just thought, holy cow, what a rough 3 years it's been since the Mitchell and Gobert trades, and this felt like the best shot for them, and to not even stay in the top four is just crazy.
So we talk about this being a bad day for the Utah Jazz, but Andy, I know that you're really connected through all 30. How bad of a day is this for 27 or 28 other organizations?
I think if any time that you don't win the lottery or move up in it, it can be bad. But there are other implications here, which I think is what you're alluding to.
Exactly, yes.
The San Antonio Spurs now seem like a prime candidate to go get Giannis Antetokounmpo. That was one of the first thoughts I had last night. The Mavericks, who are already a fringe playoff team, now get the number one pick, which is just exceptionally unusual. I think the Lakers, how do they always get so lucky year after year after year? They could be a fringe beneficiary of this, because if Dallas adds another front court player, they might want to move one of those centers, and LA needs a center. So the chips fell miraculously in very fortunate ways to a handful of teams. Obviously, you got to mention Philly too. They fell backwards into a top 3 pick despite, just an epic failure of a regular season. This obviously wasn't their goal going in. And so, 3, 4, 5 teams are probably pretty happy today. And everybody else, I think, is understandably probably wringing their hands.
So if you're the GM and you're Danny Ainge and Justin Zanuck with the Utah Jazz, and you just put this fan base was all in. Hans and I are at games. That arena was packed more often than not because people knew going in, okay, there's a reason why we're doing what we're doing, and they'd go home and they'd watch Duke highlights and be like, okay, all right, we can work through this. There's an end game here, and then to have it ripped away, it's going to be really hard to sell this again next year. If it's like, well, hey, here's AJ DeBonsa, or here's, it's really going to be hard because this fan base got burnt. How do you adjust accordingly, or do you tank it again with 2 more youngsters, with Lauri Markkanen right there in the prime of his career, probably not wanting to be part of this? Like, there's a lot of avenues here the Jazz can take, and none of them seem to be very good.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think this was their out. If they had landed this number 1 pick in a draft where it looks like there's a very, very good top pick available, things obviously look much, much different. I think given the nature of being a small market team in the NBA, you probably have to just keep tanking until you get that generational star, as difficult as that is. And I think it's even more difficult to sell now than it was 5-10 years ago, because we're seeing year after year after year examples of tanking doesn't guarantee you anything. Charlotte, Utah, and Washington all moved down. Utah and Washington moved down pretty dramatically, 4 spots each. I hope I'm not misstating something, but I'm pretty sure I saw someone say that since they flattened the odds to the bottom 3 records all having a 14% chance at the number 1 overall pick, I don't think any of those teams have ended up number 1.
Nope.
I need to go back and double check that.
Nope, that's right.
So there's confirmation right there. It's just, yeah. So maybe as I'm answering your question, I'm talking myself into, can you really tank again? Because just the traditional form of tanking, it hasn't yielded results. But at the same time, it's hard to bank on any other form of team building if you're a team like Utah or Charlotte or even Washington at this point. You build a team through the draft, through trades, or through free agency. And free agency, unfortunately, is just not a great option for those smaller market teams. And even trades are risky because if you bring in a guy who's in his prime and is like a star level player, all you're going to hear for the year or two that he's there from the national media is, how can so-and-so get out? I mean, it even happened with Cleveland when they got Donovan Mitchell. He has signed an extension here fairly recently, and I think it quieted it a little bit. But between the trade from Utah to that extension, it was just constant talk of how can we get Donovan Mitchell to New York. Who knows how much media influences what actually happens in front offices? Probably not very much. But generally speaking, in the NBA, at least relative to like the NHL or the NFL, it's just harder to be really successful as a small market team.
So, Andy, there's something that kind of looms over my head, and Scotty and I have talked about it over the last couple of years, and it feels like it looms over the Jazz head to a large degree. And I'm excited to get your thoughts on this specifically because Scotty and I would really love to see the Jazz move on and make trades and do what they got to do to get themselves back in postseason play. But they've got this OKC top 8 protected pick now that's hanging around their neck. The 2026 conveyance is top 8 protected. So if the Jazz, let's say they even make the play-in tournament, get bounced, they got to convey that lottery pick over to OKC. So how much does that top 8 protected pick force the Jazz hand to maybe tank again?
I think a decent amount. To answer it bluntly, I think if you're in this point of a rebuild that Utah is in, and it seems like they've kind of been stuck at the same point for 3 years. So I don't blame any fans for being impatient, but they still don't have I really don't think they have a single guy who could develop into a franchise type of player. And when you're in that spot, you have to just keep taking as many bites at the draft apple as you can. And every opportunity is valuable. And they've had a lot of opportunities in the last few years. Like they've had decent shots at it, and they've got several young guys on the roster right now, and they're varying levels of potential with them. But again, it just doesn't seem like any of them are going to be like they don't have the next Donovan Mitchell or the next Rudy Gobert on the roster right now. It just doesn't seem that way. Maybe, I mean, as I say that, maybe you could argue that Walker Kessler is a bona fide defensive anchor. I think you could probably make that play, but you need a dynamic offensive player too, and they don't have that yet. So they need to keep whacking away at this draft strategy, as difficult as that may be to hear in the wake of what happened last night. I genuinely felt gutted for Jazz fans as soon as that was announced last night, and it was just such a wild lottery, and they may be the biggest loser of the bunch. It's just awful.
All right, so it is what it is. Jazz are picking 5th. Everybody is, we've all talked about Cooper Flagg. Then okay, well, if it's not Cooper Flagg, it'll be Dylan Harper or Ace Bailey. All three of those are going to be out of the mix. So does Edgecombe fall? Like, what are we looking at 5?
Edgecombe is a name that comes to mind. It seems like he's probably going to go in the top 4. But, I mean, there's always some kind of a shakeup early in the draft. I think Cooper Flagg is really the only sure thing. I think Dylan Harper is fairly sure thing at number 2, but I also could see San Antonio trading that pick. So there's a lot that could happen, and I think B.J. Edgecombe could fall. I think Trey Johnson from Texas is maybe kind of interesting from them. Con Kniffel from Duke is a guy that I think could be interesting for them. I mean, there are interesting potential players still available. It's just, it's just tough when you're comparing it to the possibility of, what might have been prior to last night. And there is no draft. I mean, typically there's no drafting for need when you're in the top 5 regardless, but there truly is not for Utah. So whoever they settle on as the best player available, there's opportunities on that roster and in that rotation, whether it's a guard, wing, probably even a big guy. Although that one would be the one that would most surprise me, again, because I think you can talk yourself into Kessler, and I think some of the guys in that 5, 6, 7 range that are more interesting are more guards and wings. So there are guys that I think could maybe move the needle a little bit. I'm not certain that any of them is going to be a superstar, but like you said, it is what it is. They've got to play this hand that they've been dealt.
What kind of trade potential does the number 5 and I think it's 21 that they possess? What is the trade power of that, and maybe packaging something with some of their other 6 picks that they've taken over the last 2 drafts, or maybe that future 2031 Suns pick that they've got, the unprotected. Is there enough there that they could do something powerful with any of that, Andy, to change their stars? And then again, you've got that number 8 protected pick that's hanging around your neck.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they could make a move for a veteran. I'm not sure they have enough to go enter the Giannis sweepstakes. And then, the other thing that's just kind of tough in the NBA that I don't follow other sports closely enough to know how much this exists. I think it exists more in the NBA than anywhere else. One of the big factors in trades is the player who is being traded just has so much say over what happens, regardless of which team holds the best trade package. So if Giannis does indeed say, I think I need to find somewhere else to have a better shot at a championship, and here's my list of teams, we just haven't seen Utah on one of those lists before. So I'm not sure they can go after like the top end players that might be available this summer. And then, the next tier of guy, even if we assume that he wouldn't mind going to Utah, I'm not sure someone like Kevin Durant would even make sense for the Jazz. I mean, if he's not 37, he's close, and he's got plenty of injuries in his past. One thing that I just pulled up contracts for next season. I'm scanning as I talk to you guys. One that could be interesting, and he's a player that I for years have actually thought is slightly overrated, but I honestly think there's a chance he might become available this summer, is Jaylen Brown. And maybe if you can piece together enough salary and enough picks, and you can offer some financial flexibility to Boston, that could be interesting. And I would think that he'd be kind of an interesting combo with Lauri Markkanen, and then you have Kessler as your defensive anchor. So I think there are opportunities to go get a veteran, and they still have a decent amount of draft assets to be in the mix for a player like that. It's something that they should at least explore. I think everything has to be on the table for them at this point.
Andy, is the NBA dealing with a bit of a identity crisis? And what I mean is the regular season wild with 128, 132s, and now we're watching 86 to 92s. Games feel like they're called different. Watching Steph Curry be draped over when they were going against Houston, and it just feels like everything's different in the postseason. Is there a bit of an identity crisis on what you want your league to look like?
Yeah, the way you laid it out is exactly correct. and I'm certain that the regular season version is not the right identity. I'll start there.
I agree with that.
I'm not 100% certain that what we're seeing now is the right identity either.
Yeah.
I think if you could get maybe most of the way to what we're seeing now, if there's some spectrum between typical February game and what we're seeing now, I think you'd want it closer to what we're seeing now, but maybe not all the way because, like you said, that some of the contact that's being allowed is frankly crazy. And you brought up an example that stands out to me every single time the Warriors are in the playoffs for whatever reason. And this guy is one of the biggest stars in the history of the league. He's not even allowed to move off the ball. I mean, it's just constant being held and grabbed and, chipped off the screens. And it's crazy to me. And so I think the pendulum has swung a little bit too far in the postseason. I don't know exactly how you recreate this, but I felt like the flow of the games, and I have felt this for a while, actually, it wasn't just the Paris Olympics, but the flow and the physicality of the games in FIBA basketball, I think should kind of be the ideal. Flopping is actually penalized there. A lot of times it's ignored, which is better than what happens in the NBA. Defenders are allowed to be a little bit more physical than they are in the NBA regular season, but they're also not mugging guys like we're seeing now. And the other, factor to talk about on this point is we're seeing a ton of injuries in the playoffs too.
Yeah.
And who knows if it's directly caused by the increase in physicality, but it's certainly a possibility to have two very high profile players really tear their Achilles in back-to-back series is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And, now Stephen Curry's out with his hamstring thing.
Cleveland doesn't have a bench or a backup.
Yeah, Cleveland was missing two starters and one, like their sixth man for a game in this series. Like, yeah, there's certainly something to think about here. And it's one thing that I have to remind myself constantly is the NBA officials have an extremely difficult job. These guys are huge. They're extremely fast. They are actively trying to trick the referees throughout games. So it's I almost feel bad putting more responsibility on them and saying, it's up to you guys to fix this. But we have seen over the course of recent history, they can adjust. I mean, we've seen the points of emphasis, and they're a big deal for a month or two, and then things just kind of regress back to where they were. I think if the NBA allowed a little bit more physicality in the regular season, severely punished flopping, I think things would start to look a little bit more like FIBA, and it would just be a better product.
Well, we appreciate your time as always. Thanks for hanging out with us, and look forward to catching up again here soon.
You're the best, Andy. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always love coming on.
You got it. Andy Bailey, we appreciate it. One of your better NBA writers, and he was right there with every other Jazz fan, just gutted. Not saying he's a Jazz fan. I'm just saying, like,
he sees it.
He sees the pain. He sees the anguish.
I think that the bigger issue that we've got going on right now with the NBA is this identity issue.
Yes. Yep.
And everybody I talk to is like, well, got to get something figured out because players need to have an expectation.
Yeah.
And what I'm worried about, Scotty, is you already put out a bowl of milk for the cat. They already are used to it. They're coming for the milk. They're used to it. How do you change this league? These guys have now grown up watching a certain brand of basketball, and you've recruited to and developed to and scouted to a certain brand of big that is unique now, that stretches, and it's just the way you play. And, it's positionless basketball, and everybody's transition threeing, and everybody's looking for the flop. There was a bit of European style that was brought by Manu Ginobili and kind of tweaked and torqued into whatever James Harden has done over the years, and the league is a mess. And then all of a sudden, the postseason, you swallow your whistle.
Yeah.
Except for on Shea Gilgeous, and you got yourself a real mess.
Yeah, it's a PR nightmare.
It's a PR nightmare.
It really is.
And like I was saying, that's why I was so excited about the potential of Cooper Flag. Because however the NBA ends up figuring out which direction they want to go, I think you could say, all right, Cooper, this is what we're going to do. And Cooper has the tools. Okay, I'm going to go be a defensive juggernaut, a defensive mastermind. I'll defend 1 through 4. I can even defend certain 5s. And this is the physicality I can bring because he's strong. And I thought, man, he's so moldable. Yeah, well, that's
out the window.
That was run over by a vehicle.
Well, you want to hear some angry, loud noises? Get ready. David Locke's going to join us coming up next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked on to Hans Olsen and Scotty G. That's right. Yeah! On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hans and Scotty, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, folks. Coming up here in just a moment, you're going to hear from David Locke. I do not know what David is going to say. I do not know what path he's going to take. All I know is that we're going to tee him up and let him do his thing. Because there are certain days that it just makes sense to talk to David. And, David and I, we exchange texts every now and then. I purposely, knowing that David was going to come on today, I purposely did not reach out in any way, shape, or form because I wanted David unleashed. I did not listen to Lockdown Jazz for that reason. The only time I didn't listen to Lockdown Jazz because I did not want to be influenced one way or another because I want David Locke unfiltered, not knowing what direction he's going to go. Is it going to be angry David? Is it going to be sorrowful David? I don't know what we're getting. But all I know is he joins us now, the play-by-play voice of the Utah Jazz. David, the floor is yours.
I might be too rational for you today.
No rational, David. No.
All right. Here's the first rational aspect. Let's go with the very few things. Okay, first, thank goodness Oklahoma City didn't get like the 7th pick. Because when I thought Oklahoma City was coming up 7 because Dallas and Chicago had already jumped, or whoever it was it Dallas and whoever had already jumped, I thought, or Dallas and San Antonio already jumped, I thought Philadelphia was going to then get bumped out and Oklahoma City was going to get that pick. Then I really would have been pissed. Okay, I don't want to hear about how great the Spurs are. This is too easy. Like, do something hard. Win without a number 1 pick sometime. Then I'll be impressed. Okay, so I'm just going to eliminate great Greg Popovich, greatest coach of all time. He's now has no credit, nothing else. And when Mitch Johnson's the 2nd greatest coach of all time because they just traded the number 2 pick in Stephen Castle for Giannis, and he wins a bunch of titles, I'm not impressed. Win without a number 1 pick. Win without winning the lottery sometime. Okay. Those 2 things are true. In regards to our 5th pick, kind of sucks. However, it's not like they changed the rules last week. We went into this process knowing there was a 48% chance that we were getting the 5th pick. Right? It wasn't like 3 weeks ago they said, oh, by the way, we're going to change the rules. This part of the calculus that existed by the front office, by the Jazz, I hope, because if not, then that's negligent. I don't think they're negligent, is that we're going to do this, probably do it for a few years, and part of the risk is that there's a 48% chance, even if we have the worst record in the league, that you get the 5th pick. That's like the way the rules have been written for a long time. So, that part of it, it sucks. It would have been great to get a guiding star, right? We didn't get a guiding star. If that, we're still going to be a bit aimless here for a while because if you have Cooper Flagg and probably if you have Dylan Harper, the way when Detroit got Cade Cunningham, they have their guiding star, right? Everything's building around Cade Cunningham. Houston doesn't have a guiding star unless you think it's Amon Thompson or Alfred Sengun, then maybe they showed enough in the playoffs. But maybe they do now, but they didn't until this playoffs if you think either of those 2 guys are that good.
Orlando got theirs.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one, but Paulo or Franz. Yeah.
Banchero, I love him.
Yeah. San Antonio, so I don't, but he'll get there. I think he's Carmelo, which is fine. It's going into the Hall of Fame, but it might not win you anything. The San Antonio has their guiding star in Victor, and Dallas now has a guiding star in Cooper. We didn't get a guiding star. That's the impact. So now we got to go through this again, but we were going through it again anyway, right? I've heard oh, this sets us back. Here's the truth. we're probably going through this for 3 years. That's kind of what everyone does. Your hope is that somewhere in those 3 years you get the first pick. You're probably getting the fifth pick, and you're maybe getting the third pick. And then through that, you have 3 good young players. It's unfortunate for us, emotionally and mentally, that we got the fifth pick first because it feels awful.
Wasn't this the third year of it, though, David?
I don't think it feels that. Yeah, then we timed it badly because last year there wasn't a player that's there, and we did pull the plug on both the last 2 seasons, but it just took us a while to get to this point. But I do think we have 2 more years. We didn't lose enough in the last 2 years to be in the model that I'm talking about, where if you go look at Memphis, Orlando, Houston, Detroit, 7 of them made the playoffs this year, who all had lost had one of the 5 worst records for 3 years in a row. Oklahoma City, I think. And then that got them the young talent, and then you make moves around that young talent. Orlando hasn't made their moves yet, or if they did, was Contavious Caldwell-Pope and was non-impactful. Houston added Fred VanVleet and Dylan Thomas and changed who they were, or Dylan Brooks, sorry. And so that's what you do. Like Detroit added Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley and pumped their guys up a little bit further, and they suddenly were a really good playoff team. Like that's what you do unless you're in New York or Los Angeles, or your other choice to build a franchise is that you hope that you hit on one of the greatest draft picks in 50 years. And 2 teams have done that, Milwaukee with Giannis and Nikola Jokic in Denver. And if you believe in that model, go for it. But there's no track record that works unless you happen to draft like a miracle draft pick.
It was told to me, I want to say back in March, that realistically we're in the first quarter of the rebuild. And I would like to, since hockey evidently can win lotteries, let's go with we're in the first period rather than the first quarter. All right, fair enough. But ultimately, I've been doing sports radio here for 22 years, and I try not to be that's the greatest game I've ever seen, blah, blah. I hate being that guy. But the visceral reaction from the fan base last night was, and I get it, you're being rational, and you have every right, and everything you're saying is true. But, boy, that was a bad night last night. That was a really bad night last night.
Sucked.
So what do you say? What do you say to Joe Schmuckatelli right now?
Here's what I think so interesting about that. Okay, and I'm with you, right? Like, I was disheartened too, and literally, I did the traditional, walked in the pantry and just about had 8 chocolate chip cookies, because I don't drink. But clearly, if I drank, that would have been going to the bar and popping the whiskey, right? Like, I was there. My version of that is find me my chocolate chip cookies, and I'm going to town, because I'm going to eat some happiness right now. Most people want to drink it. I was going to eat it. I got it, okay? I'm with them. But it is kind of weird that we're feeling this way over something that had a 48% chance. It was the single most likely outcome. Asking Halle Berry to the prom and her saying no and then being surprised.
Well, there's 2 things.
Halle Berry bad reference right now.
Yeah, not great. Okay. All right, so you're right. And Justin Zanuck said, hey, look, mathematically, this was the likelihood, and we've been preparing for it. It's not just that. It's Dallas. It's San Antonio. That's what's adding to everything. That's where a lot of the anger is coming from.
Nico Harrison can still screw this up somehow, so we might be all right on the Dallas end. Probably unfair.
I'm sure Rob Pelinka's called already.
Right. The San Antonio thing, no, I'm so tired of San Antonio. I'll stop. I have comments I cannot make because they're not fair, and I have enough of a I can't be a Twitter warrior because I actually have a job that I want to keep. But San Antonio, I don't know. Their karma shouldn't be good. How's that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Scotty kind of hit it, David. For me, it's just the piling on, and it's the year after year. I went through some of the numbers of the Utah Jazz draft lottery history. They've been in the lottery 11 times. Their average pick is 10.3. I went through Mavericks. They've been there 17 times. Their average pick is 7.8. The Spurs, they've been there 9 times. Their average pick is 6.4. It's the piling on. The Jazz have never won it. They've never even won the number 2 pick. There's only 2 teams that haven't won the 1 or 2 in lottery history, and it's Denver and the Utah Jazz. And it just kind of feels like the Jazz, when are they going to get the win? I thought it might be this year, but it feels like they haven't done any winning for a long time. And I think fans are just, it's all piled up on them.
Yeah, I've read enough, people's emotions are real. Like, I'm not trying to devalue them and I feel it too. I'm not, I guess I might be a little rational here. Like, 1, it was a 48% chance. 2, I'm not sure I get I'm never watching again because of this. It's not rigged. And then the final thing I would say is, it would have been way better if we got Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper. Okay, it would have been way better. I'm agreeing. We still would have lost 60 games next year. It wasn't changing our route if we got Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper next year. That wasn't changing our route.
Yeah, but you said, you have that pillar.
Star.
You have that pillar.
Yeah, you gave you a guiding star, but we could get the guy. We may get the guiding star next year. Or we might get the guiding star at 5. I've watched the players. I don't see it as obviously as I do with the others. But Trey Johnson's pretty good. He very well may be a 5. I'm a pretty big fan. He's going to score 20 points a game in the NBA. He's going to score 20 a night. I'm certain of it. If he scores 25 a night, he might be your guiding star.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's really good.
I just, I sent out a tweet last night that I thought was pretty rational, and it was not well received. And so I don't want to be I'm with everyone. I have the same reaction. I think it sucks. I'm I'm wearing black all day. I'm with everybody, right? But let's also understand, it wasn't this rebuild process was not ending last night, even under the best case scenario. Well, no, people know that. I mean, come on, people aren't morons. They know that Victor hasn't been to the playoffs in 2 years. Since being drafted. They know the Spurs, but nobody doubts that the Spurs are on their way to a championship, even before last night. People knew that it wasn't going to be a playoff team next year, but people feel like their guts just got splayed out in front of them, with not them just falling back to 5, but Dallas, who engineered the worst trade in NBA history, getting rewarded. And then San Antonio doing their thing. I mean, that's what people are pissed about right now, is not the fact that they didn't get number 1. These others 2 hopped them, and that the Jazz have to go through this again. Without that guiding, without that pillar, without that thing to build around. If Cooper Flagg is on this team and they won 24 games next year, people would be like, that's all right. Because guess what? We're right back in the lottery, and we can add a Robin to our Batman, and let's go.
I mean, I get it. There are a whole big bunch of reasons why you can decide to be in a really bad mood about this, and I'm not in a particularly good one about it. So I'm with you about that. Yes. I mean, do you want me to add extra to this?
Let's go.
You really want me to you want me to depress everyone,
no,
or how far do you want me to go?
Yeah, see, that I don't know if we want to get David going down that hole.
I mean, can we really talk about the real story of the year that we've just decided to not address?
Which is
the Taylor Hendricks injury is the real setback.
Oh,
the what injury? Sorry,
Taylor
Hendricks injury.
Yeah.
The single most important piece of our rebuild up to this moment lost an entire year. If you want to go lose your mind about what set the rebuild back and is going to force the rebuild to be longer, that's the issue. It's not the 5th pick last night. That didn't help. But truthfully, not knowing what Taylor Hendricks is probably for another 2 years is worse than last night.
I don't disagree with that.
I do.
I mean,
losing out on Cooper Flagg.
If it's 2 or 3, yes, Cooper Flagg, yeah, no.
Right, but the chances of getting Cooper Flagg was very little. was 14. The chance of your number 9 pick, who's hopefully can develop into something that's one of your significant pieces, being knocked out for a year because of a slippery floor, is like, seriously, what the is going on?
Yeah. No, I get it, Dan.
Right? Like,
I get it.
Like, you want the one that's like, you want to like lose your mind over feeling like the world's against you? Go there.
Yeah.
Was that a check swing, by the way? You were really close to getting us into trouble.
I was in control. There are debates about what I said on YouTube last night when we got the 5th pick. I vow I did not say what some people thought I did. There are some debates for that.
I think the umpire looked at first base to see if you went all the way around on that one.
I did not go all the way around on that one.
Hey David, how much is this top 8 protected pick, this conveyance with OKC? How much does that force the Jazz hand in 25-26?
This is my point. We were in the rebuild next year.
Yeah. And that pick would have insured it?
Your choice is to draft in the top 8 of the draft and give someone a second-round draft pick in 2030, or to give them a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
Or give them a 10th, a more better pick.
Yeah.
With 0 chance of winning a title.
Giddy up, folks. All right. Thank you.
Last night was not like what we wanted. It's bad. I was bummed. I'm not disagreeing with you on that. It's not catastrophically changing our route. And here's what truly is the issue. And we won't know this for 3 years. My guess is we're going to be in a similar important lottery for each of the next 2 seasons. So we're going to do 3 years of this, having the lottery be as important a day as any day of the year. At the end of those 3 years, we can look back and understand what last night was. If we go 5-1-3, that was what the process was. But right now, all we have is the 5.
Yeah.
Right?
It's hard.
But if we had the 1 this year and the 5 next year, and let's say we did the exact thing that happened next year, we already had the 1, nobody would be like, oh, well, who cares? We got the 1. We just don't have that item, that guiding star, or that item that gives us the feeling of being right. That's the problem.
This is why David Locke will go down as probably the greatest radio host in Salt Lake City history, because you never knew what you were going to get. This is not the avenue. I thought this would be like I would be having you sit on the couch in my therapist office, David. I didn't expect you to be the voice of reason today. I knew eventually you would be, but I didn't think today would be the day. I'm proud of you. I'm proud. No, yeah, you should be a little bit, because I really hyped you up like we were going to have a meltdown of biblical proportions.
Maybe I saw your wife already today. That didn't sound right. Never mind. Would you please explain that comment to everybody?
Hey, by the way,
that did not sound
I know.
right.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, I will say though that we got grad school to pay for, so we are accepting clients as we speak. So yes. Right. And that is for therapy. Yes.
That was a tribute to Scotty's wife, who graduated last week.
Yep.
With her advanced degree as a therapist. And so that was my shout out to Jenny and all of her incredible, and what a star she is. And I am president of the Jenny Gerard fan club, if Scott allows me to be.
Summa cum laude and commencement speaker.
Commencement speaker.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what that shout out was. It just didn't. It wasn't it was evidently a check swing.
All right. Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Bye, David.
See ya.
All right. We'll wrap this up. Get you ready for JJ and Alex next. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.